Susan Richardson Williams, who is a Republican and a PR consultant, and also Don Bosch, who's an attorney here in Knoxville, and he is a Democrat. And they are always with us on nights like this when we are sort of nervously watching to see what's going to happen. And Don and Susan, before we sort of get to the nitty-gritty, how are you doing? You a little nervous?
If they say politics is the only true adult sport, this is the Super Bowl, and one might have some nerves, but nervous, but still very optimistic. These are what we're seeing come across now are incredibly early and not representative of how this race is going to end, likely.
Yeah, everything that we've read today in the last few days said do not panic at the early results because they're going to be really skewed, and it may be a long night, it may be a long week, it could be a long 2 weeks. So I'm trying not to get nervous, but when they start putting up the numbers, then I get nervous.
But folks, Susan will have no caffeine tonight. She's that nervous.
No caffeine.
So.
Y'all, here's the way I look at it. If we just keep talking, then everybody will chill out a little bit, okay? I mean, I'm already tired of looking at some of the national TV people that have already got me kind of going like this. So anyway, we'll get through this. We hope you're doing great. We appreciate you joining us. And as we wait for the live results for Knox County, because that is what we're doing, the polls just shut down and they won't pop them up here for, I'm guessing, another 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. We'll just sort of set the stage. Don and Susan, before we sort of get to some of the specific races that we're all paying attention to locally and in the state, have you had any concerns? Some people, there's been a lot of polling, let's put it this way, where some people say, I'm a little bit nervous about the legitimacy of the votes cast, or I'm a little bit concerned about the security of my vote and whether it was properly protected. Have you got any concerns like that, or have you heard of anybody who is a little worried about that?
Well, so I'll start. When we finished our 5 o'clock break, I did get a call at my office that my staff took, and someone indicated that their spouse's vote had not been accounted for, and they had heard that some 1,000 other votes had gone missing in a post office. No veracity established to that at this point. The caller was very nice and it seemed very appropriate, but certainly have not heard anything systematic or institutional. Always going to be a little bit of concern that there's going to be some factor of human error, but I don't think I think it'll work itself out in the end of the night.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about Knox County. I think we've had a couple of glitches in the past, but usually something to do with the machines, and we just have sort of moved past that. I have a lot of confidence in our election commission and the folks down there. We had an enormous amount of people vote early, and so we think we're going to have a record vote in Knox County, over 200,000, right, which is incredible. We're
going to vote close to 70% of our registered voters, which, while still disappoints me a little bit, I'm proud that we've made a major improvement in past voting. It's indicative also of the times. I mean, frankly, we've love him or hate him, Trump has created quite the divide and quite the discourse and has driven people to the polls.
Yeah.
You hit on some numbers. Let me just remind folks. So early voting, which we had end last Thursday, I think. By the end of early voting, we had about 153,000 people who cast those ballots. We have had roughly, as of a couple hours ago that I know about 20,000 what I call the mail-in or the absentee ballots received. And we were anticipating somewhere, according to Chris Davis, the administrator of elections here in Knox County, maybe 30,000 people turning out today, maybe 35, maybe 40. I think Don and Susan, you hit on it. We're looking at, for sure, this is a record election in the history of Knox County, which is kind of cool that we can say that. We will go over 200,000 easy. We will probably stray into 205, 210, somewhere in there. But just to echo what these folks have been saying, Chris Davis has not expressed any concern in terms of any funny business. We've not had any ballots that we know of that have been confirmed of being magically discovered or going missing or what have you. The United States Postal Service remains a pretty solid place to do business in terms of if you need to get something somewhere, so that's good news. So I think we can safely say we have not heard of anything that's concerning. And in the state of Tennessee, we had the Secretary of State jump on a call this afternoon at 4:30 with reporters to brief everybody and say, we've had a couple isolated incidents, somebody maybe got the wrong ballot, we may have had a little bit of this or that, but nothing significant, nothing major, nothing that makes them go, uh-oh, we've got a problem. All right, so while we are waiting results, waiting for the Election Commission to pop up some results, the very first, and by the way, what we'll see first will be early. That will be the first thing we see. I don't think we'll see absentee until later on in the evening, but we'll see those 153,000 earlies pop up, I assume. Let's just kind of set the table, Don and Susan, in terms of what races to watch and what you're expecting tonight. Susan?
Well, we have two open seats and legislative seats where Bill Dunn retired and where Martin Daniel retired. And 13, seat 13, we've got Michelle Carringer running against Elizabeth Rowland, and we've had them on Inside Tennessee. And both candidates are good, and I think that's a red seat. Bill Dunn has been there 20-something years.
Yeah, he was, I think, one of the longest serving.
And so I think Michelle should win that. But Elizabeth Rowland's a good candidate.
Well, and she has, she's sort of legacy.
Got some name ID.
Right,
She
her
is.
father was in the state legislature for a long time and was quite the politico here in Knox County on the
Mom,
Democratic
too.
side, and
Yeah.
mom. And so, and she's a young, bright upcomer, first race. So I do think that Carringer has the better chance given the way that district skews. But I'm really happy to see somebody like Elizabeth Rowland, young and energetic, getting involved. And we've just seen just a better quality of candidates from my side of the equation get involved in contested races.
I agree with that. It hadn't been too many years ago, Don.
We
that
wouldn't run a candidate.
We laughed, honestly, about the lack of even fielding candidates
That's
for
right.
the Democrat Party in Knox County. So I will give the Democrat Party credit. They fielded some good candidates, a lot of women, which I appreciate. But I think in that race, I think I've got to give the nod to Michelle.
And let me jump in before we
ahead.
move on. About that race, I just want to point out, if this matters to you, Susan, maybe we don't care so much anymore. We will add at least one woman to the delegation with this election tonight, which is a nice thing, I would think, in terms of diversity.
Correct.
And from that very race, if not any others.
Right. I was going to say, I think the race that we're all really watching closely is number 18. That was Martin Daniel, where Martin Daniel retired, and it's Eddie Manis, is a Republican running against Virginia Couch, Democrat. And there's been a lot of drama, as most of you know, if you read the papers, that took place in that race about from the Republican Party. Some of the local folks in our party contended Eddie wasn't a real bona fide Republican, which he is. But it was voted on in the state party, state executive committee, not to allow him to run as a Republican. And then the state party chairman, Scott Golden, overruled that. And frankly, it was because the rules say if you have people who vouch for you that you are a Republican, you should run. And he had three of our electeds, Glenn Jacobs and Tim Burchett and Dr. Briggs, vouched for him, and so he did get on the ballot as a Republican. And I just think it's going to be a close race because of that.
I do too, and I think that Eddie is an example of getting pushed really hard by the right, the far right of your party, and Eddie, frankly, is a moderate. I think everybody has always considered him as a moderate. He worked for, while it was nonpartisan, a Democratic mayor, I think, frankly, some of the hard right just don't appreciate and don't like that. But it was interesting when you see a guy like Tim Burchett, who most would consider pretty far right in your party, come step up for him. Glenn Jacobs is sort of an outlier as this odd libertarian. Republican. But, they stepped up for him. But Virginia Couch is a credible, strong attorney, trust company, has good name recognition in town, will do well in West Knox County, and that race is just going to be close. Eddie Manis has a lot of name recognition, so that's the race. We said it could go really close or it could go wildly either way. We just can't really see it
It
yet.
could, and but I do think Eddie's going to get I think he'll get some Democrat support because Eddie has been such a community activist, and he's done all this work with veterans. I think everybody knows about his work with Honor Air.
That's right.
And he's been great during the pandemic. His company started making masks for people, and Eddie's just been a name that everybody in I think the West Knox community recognizes as a great person.
Define close. What's close? 1,000 votes or less? 500 votes?
Yeah,
I think that's
or
fair.
more.
But remember, the turnout is so great when we're used to seeing, a Glenn Jacobs win by 26.
Yeah. Right.
Where, anything within 1,000 is going to be close, given a 200,000 plus turnout in Knox County.
Yeah, I agree. Martin Daniel won. It was a close race. A couple of Greg McKay ran against him
Greg,
last
good
time.
candidate, big name
I feel like it was
recognition.
180 votes.
Yeah,
maybe.
very close.
So
I'm a little surprised Greg didn't decide
Run
maybe to
again.
throw back in
Yeah.
and go. So.
But that seat has been close a couple of times.
Is that
Well, what a
indicative to
surprise.
you?
Tennessee's
look.
projected Donald Trump as the winner of
We're watching as we're watching.
we're
talking
watching
Wait a
to you guys,
minute, is
we're
that
also watching
74%
NBC, so.
to 24%?
over state. That's projected winner right now with, I can't see what the percentage of vote total is, but
Well, it said 74% for Trump. Now, that
Yeah,
probably
it's
won't
a small
hold.
percentage.
Small
but
percentage
I
of
think
the
we
poll,
can all
right.
assume that it's safe that Tennessee will go for Donald
yeah, I don't
Well,
think that was going to be a
I'm
surprise.
not.
Just like Kentucky will go for Donald Trump.
Yeah, but let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, I don't think we've all assumed Trump would carry Tennessee, but the margins to me have been really interesting and what I've wanted to watch tonight, because we've had this humongous turnout.
Right.
And not only in our county, but they've been turning out in record numbers all
Nationwide.
across Tennessee.
Yeah.
And Davidson County had a huge turnout in early voting.
Right.
And I've got to believe that was mostly Democrat voters in Davidson
But what
County.
we're seeing is probably today voting in Tennessee, but it was such a wide margin for
Yeah.
Trump, which was expected. That margin in Tennessee
could
is
tighten.
going to narrow.
Yeah.
Not could. It will tighten dramatically. Trump's going to carry Tennessee, make no mistake. But like we've said, that margin might be reflective when you compare it to 16 of what might be going on at least through the Southeast when you
Yeah.
look at Georgia, North Carolina, even Florida, possibly Texas, might be reflective of what's going to happen there later tonight.
We had a hint. Remember, we had the August 6th primary, which included some local races and a general, and then also primaries in state and federal races. And we had a hint that night, August the 6th, that we were going to have big turnout. We had big turnout in the major metro areas, and we had big turnout in Davidson County especially. I remember working that going, holy cow, that place was really turning out.
And those are the counties, the larger counties tend to count a little bit slower because of the volume.
Right.
And again, likewise, the volume of absentee and early vote, which in Knoxville, for example, they got to start counting the early, the absentee ballots at 8 a.m. this morning.
Right.
They couldn't release them till now, but they're still not there. They're not finished likely. I know that Chris Hegarty had brought in a number of, folks to help count those, but it's still going to take some time.
All right, so we covered the 16th and the 18th. We didn't do 13th, did we? Gloria and
We
Elaine
haven't.
Davis?
We have not.
So touch on that one. And the reason I bring that one up is there are two reasons. First of all, it's so unusual to have a Democrat actually holding a seat. And two, Gloria has had to fight for that seat through the years. She won it and then lost it for, I think, 2 terms and then got it back. And she, Don, you and I and Susan were talking, she may be somebody who is going to, if she wins tonight, and we don't know, she may have to fight for that seat every 2 years. So the 13th is up as well. And what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I'll start with that. Since Gloria is the incumbent, I think Gloria wins it. It's been a very caustic, ugly race, not only by really Elaine Davis, her opponent herself, but by the party, by the Republican Party. Sent out some awful flyers, some awful doctored pictures, just the ugliest in politics as it gets. And I don't know how effective it still really is. That district has skewed purple now. And I do think, like we've all talked about, Gloria is going to face a challenge every 2 years because it's a vulnerable district. It's so close. It usually is decided by within 100 or 200 votes. And but I do think some of the things that happened with the Republican Party and Elaine are going to backfire a little bit on her, and I think she's going to have a tough time winning tonight. But it's a strange district and a strange election night.
Yeah, that district very well could get redistricted
It
too
sort of
when the
looks like it
census
should be.
when the census comes around, the changes. But Elaine Davis is a well-known name. She's been a Republican Party person for the last several years, and
Started as a Democrat, I might add.
yes. And we had them on Inside Tennessee, and I think Don and I both got a little uncomfortable with the conversations that went on between the two candidates.
It was a little flinty,
It was just a little bit
a
awkward.
little accusatorial.
Yeah, it was. But I don't know what's going to happen. You know, the last time Gloria won, she beat Eddie Smith, who
Pretty
was
handily.
incumbent, by
Last time,
2,500
Right.
votes.
Yeah.
A huge
Was her
number
biggest
because it
margin,
had
I
been
think.
like 50 votes.
But it was
and,
that
you know,
2018 blue wave
Yeah.
that hit. And,
Yeah, that's right.
And we got the House back
Right.
nationally, and Democrats were energized. They were already angry with Trump. And I think, you know, frankly, in spilling it over to tonight, I think that's what ultimately we're going to see a lot of things happen. But I think there are just a lot of people that are tired of what this president has brought to our country, and it's going to flow down ballots. And it energized Democratic voters. We probably have more Democrats vote in Knox County than we ever have had, or first-time voters that are going to vote left. And we probably had a higher percentage of Republicans. I don't want to speak for your party, Susan, but not as high as maybe we saw, you know, on the left with independent voters.
I don't know. Time will tell tonight. We'll see what the turnout is and what the margins are. But I have been concerned about, frankly, the high number of people that were going to the polls early, and just because I think it makes an unknown. You know, it could have been more Republicans, could be more Democrats. It's hard to know, and I always get really nervous on election night. Like, who are those folks? Who were those?
We
people?
sat here 4 years ago and we both were stunned.
Right. We
So,
were. We were.
Well, I think the whole nation was stunned about that.
Well,
and-
let me hasten to say that only Dennis Francis, our friend
Hello, Dennis, if you're watching.
who predicted
Dennis might be asleep by now, but
a year before
year before, that Trump
2016,
would win.
that Donald Trump was going to win.
he and Michael Moore, imagine that pair.
That was an
So,
interesting duo.
I
but
didn't remember that, but
Oh, yeah, he
is
did.
Sometimes
Dennis
ahead
never
of him.
forgets.
No.
So
Dennis is ahead of his time in many ways.
Hi, Dennis.
Yeah. Hi, Dennis. Following up on what you guys are saying, I sometimes have this feeling that we've gone along with all these presidential elections with the same crowd that we always knew was out there and going to go vote. And tonight it feels like there are mystery people out there, and they probably already cast their votes. Well, beyond today's voting by voting early, and it's kind of like, who are you and what are you going to do? I'm very curious. It'll be fascinating to watch.
Well, I was standing in line to vote early at Downtown West, and I'm one that I like to look at the people around me and who are they and who are all these people voting today. And it was really an interesting group to me. Normally, I'm like one of the older ones there, and a lot of seniors in line. And this time, there was a real diverse mix of younger, but looked like college students, and
Nice
then
to have.
millennials and middle-agers and some seniors. But it was much more a diverse age group than I've seen in the past.
yeah, and so I tend to vote in the city county building early, as I did again this year. But I took advantage of the Saturday voting. However, I made the mistake of voting at 11:30 before the home game with Alabama. I was pleased that while I didn't have to look at any Trump memorabilia, I also did not have to look at any Alabama sweatshirts. More important to me that day. But it was as I call it, the young downtown hipsters club. A lot of young families with their kids in line, a lot of young professionals, and it was a 2-hour wait.
Yeah, that's crazy at City County.
City County building.
Yeah.
And because the courts are largely closed or restricted, I don't get into the courthouse as much as I typically would do, and I could pop in after a court day and vote. So, but I had a lot of interesting discussions with people that would engage me. They see you and I on the show. We know that we call it the grocery store stop, and
Right.
but it was enjoyable, but it was long. But like you said, it was a younger, diverse family crowd, and it wasn't the usuals, and
Downtown.
particularly at the courthouse where you
Yeah.
get, as I call them, the courthouse pigeons that are always there that
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah.
It was a very different crowd.
Just want to say thank you. We are waiting for early results to be posted out of Knox County. We will give you a shout when we know those because we'll want to start talking about them. Nothing yet. I would imagine 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. That's usually how it happens. Just a couple cleanup races. I don't know if you guys want to address these or not. The 15th district, rather, is in East Knoxville. That's interesting because it had an incumbent, Rick Staples, who lost in the primary, which is pretty unusual. Probably his questions about some of his campaign spending is what did him in. Sam McKenzie came out in a very close race that night and won that primary to represent, to go and advance. He's got an independent running against him tonight. I don't expect that Sam will lose that tonight. How about you guys?
No, Sam's an institution in the community, as was Rick, and as have been Joe Armstrong before Rick. And unfortunately, the last two people there had their problems and ultimately either lost or had to vacate the office. But
You're talking about
Sam
Joe
McKenzie,
Armstrong?
yes,
Yeah.
but Sam McKenzie, well-known county commissioner or city council before.
Commissioner.
Sam was county commissioner, yeah.
And well-known in government, well-known in the community.
Wife is well known
Right,
as well.
very well known.
Office holder.
Will serve us well in Nashville, and again, always good to have another fellow Democrat in Nashville. So there aren't many of us,
They
but we're
are rare.
moving. We are moving.
They're like four-leaf clovers or something.
Oh, be nice, John.
And then the other race that you guys tell me, we can talk as much as you want about it. We do have the 6th District Senate seat that is up. Becky Duncan Massey is the incumbent. She first got elected, I think, was placed there in 2011. And she's a Republican running against Jane George. Anything you guys want to say about that race? My guess is Becky keeps the seat, but could be wrong.
Yeah, we had them on Inside Tennessee, and I was impressed with, again, a Democrat woman that was running. Becky's going to, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I think Becky will win substantially. Becky's been a great senator. She's my senator. It's my district. Very good with constituent services and very engaged with the district. And the Duncan, you know, she was a Duncan
That's
before
right.
she was a Massey.
That's right.
And so that name is still a good name in Knox County.
Jane George ran and has run a very energetic, strong campaign, and she has proven to be a strong, credible candidate, just not somebody that my party threw up. I don't disagree that Becky has got to be the prohibitive favorite. I think a lot of people don't necessarily, that aren't playing inside baseball politics, associate her as much with the Duncan dynasty as maybe some others.
Right.
She learned constituent service as well, though, at the heel of her family.
did.
But you know, at the end, some can argue that Jimmy Duncan may have had some negatives at the very end of his career, and those really never flowed to Becky.
Becky. I agree with
I
that.
think there's some in my party that are troubled by some of the positions Becky takes, but at the end of the day, she's a lot like Senator Richard Briggs. She's not terribly controversial as a Republican to Democrats, and I think because of that, you'll see a little bit of crossover voting because Jane is new, but Jane worked as hard as anybody out there that was not an incumbent, and I was very impressed with her campaign, and I hope if she doesn't win tonight, and I hope she does, but if she doesn't, I hope she stays in the game and looks for other opportunities.
I'd like to give props to both of them for different reasons. First, echoing what Don said, Jane ran a very energetic race. She was all in, and you have to think that we haven't heard the last of Jane. So I give her props for her enthusiasm. The energy was great. And also to Becky, and here's why. Becky is getting some positions of significance in the Tennessee legislature. I believe she's the chairman of the Transportation Committee, and
She
that's
is.
pretty significant.
She
She is positioning herself well in terms of doing good things on behalf of Knox County and East Tennessee, I think, if we assume that she wins tonight. She's continuing to do well, and I would imagine will continue to progress in the legislature if she's reelected today. All right, let's do this. We're still waiting for the early results. I want to hit on one more topic, and then we're probably going to take a quick little break. And the last one that I wanted to hit on is this Knox County Charter Amendment number 1. Y'all, if you're from Knox County and you took part in this vote, you know what I'm talking about. It's the one that started out saying, "Should we take your vote away?" bet that got your attention, right? You're like, wait a minute, don't mess with my ability to vote now. And it's the whole issue of, should the law director in Knox County be elected, or should that person be appointed? We now have an elected law director. By the way, that's kind of unusual. I don't know of another county in Tennessee that has it. Maybe you can come up with one and let me know.
There isn't one, John.
Okay,
No.
thank you. I
No.
kind of figured that. We still have elected road superintendents, and I sort of wonder about that as well. No offense to you counties that have those, but I don't know, do we really need an elected law director? That's the point of this question. My hunch is it gets defeated and it stays as is. Don and Susan, what do you think?
There's very little doubt in my mind that it will be defeated, mainly because the way it was worded.
Yeah.
And it was worded that way
It
on
was a
purpose.
piece
It's a loaded
of
bomb.
Yeah.
political skullduggery because the person that got to write the question
Was
was the county law director.
Right.
And I had more people stop me that day in line going, what on earth is this? And I said, just like John just said it, do you want an appointed county law director that's appointed by the mayor and approved by county commission, or do you want to elect any lawyers that choose to run on a political platform? Now, I might have been shading it a little bit because I have a view different. While Susan thinks it'll get defeated, I don't disagree. I think we should. It's one of the rare times we should have an appointed office holder, because I think the county law director, like the city law director in Knoxville, needs to be simpatica, so to speak, with the county leader. And I think there's a way to structure the county law office that would make more sense, that would be more economical, that would represent its constituencies, school board, sheriff's department, the county mayor, county commission, and still be more efficient. I'm not talking about hiring more lawyers. You've got a stash of lawyers and staff up there right now and that really have competing interests. So I do not like this design. This is something I've talked about for years. I think it's problematic, and I think it particularly under Bud Armstrong's watch, it got even more problematic, and we saw that.
Well, I know this. Republicans in this county really love to vote people in.
That's right.
And they've had control of the courthouse for many,
And they've
many,
had
many
control of
years.
the county mayor and county
Right.
commission. So
And
they still will have a way to do it.
They really do not want to take away the right to vote. And honestly, when you read that first charter amendment, it really was
I'm
kind
a
of
lawyer,
funny.
and I looked at it and I went, I would have failed them if they were one of my students in law school.
It was funny, but again, I still think it goes down.
It sort of reminded me, so I moved here to start covering the community in 1993, and I thought, we have an elected law director? And we had just barely stopped having an elected superintendent, if you all remember that, and there was still a big murmur about bringing that back. And then just like Don and Susan were saying, I was like, oh, okay, we like to give people offices. That's what it is. I get it. So if it goes down tonight in defeat, I guess we'll see it.
Susan said that, not Don, John, just for the record.
Maybe we'll see it in another 4 years, maybe. I think we are going to take a break now as we await the results, and we will be back with you in just a second. We probably going to get a little bit of water because we know we're going to do some more talking. Think of the questions that we can answer for you, and we will be looking for the results to be popping up soon. Let me see. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can share this with you. I'm looking at a message we're getting from a reporter in the field. Sounds like we still have some folks who are in line some places, so that may
wow.
be a factor as well. So anyway, we're going to take a break, and we will be back with you shortly.